This is a story called The Gift of Tears. It's about Adam and Eve after they sinned by eating the fruit from the tree. Why? Why did I do it? Eve wondered aloud as she sat by the edge of the brook, watching the water flow over the rocks. But the brook had no answer for her. So she laid her head down and watched the setting sun, and again she asked, Why? Why did I do it? Instead of answering her, the sun just sank down beneath the horizon, taking with it Eve's last rays of happiness on her final day in the Garden of Eden. As the sky turned from blue to darkest black, Eve asked the stars, Why? Why did I do it? Why did I take a bite from the fruit? I wasn't even hungry. But the stars had no answer either. God had given Adam and Eve only one rule for living in the Garden of Eden. Don't eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge. But that is exactly what they had done. Now they would have to leave the Garden of Eden, this perfect place, forever. She watched Adam staring up into the night sky and knew he had no answers. They both had been curious about the tree of knowledge for some time. Why doesn't God want us to have knowledge? They asked each other. What secrets is the tree keeping from us? But they had never dared to eat any of its fruit until now. Why? Eve burst out. They could have had any other fruit they wanted. She didn't even feel more knowledgeable. Adam merely shook his head in response. Eve and Adam spent the rest of the day in silence. It hurt too much to talk. And there really wasn't anything to say. They just waited for God to tell them it was time to leave paradise, to show them what life would be like outside the garden. By afternoon, Eve's heart ached with grief as the gates of paradise began to open. She and Adam said silent goodbyes to the plants and the trees and the flowers. They blew kisses to the birds and the animals. At the garden's gate, they turned to take one last look behind them. I'm so sorry, said Eve. If only we could undo what we did. If only we could change the past, said Adam, holding her hand. Eve closed her eyes and inhaled the perfume air one last time. If only we didn't have to go, she said. If only this moment could last forever. But the time had come, and the gates of paradise were closing behind them as they took their first steps into the world outside the garden. They heard God's voice speaking to them softly. You ate from the tree of knowledge, God said, and now there is much you will know. You will know fear. You will know sadness. You will also know surprise and joy. For the first time, you will know pain and hard work. But that means you will also know the excitement of dreaming and the delight of accomplishment. You will know good times and bad. There will be times when life seems too hard. And for those times, I am giving you something that will help. Is it something from paradise? Asked Eve. A tree or a fruit or a rainbow? Asked Adam. No, answered God. It is not from paradise, but it will help you remember. This gift will come from yourselves. Whenever you are feeling sorrow, the way you feel now, whenever the pain gets too hard to bear, whenever you are truly sorry or frightened or lonely, I will give you tears so that you can cry. And though tears are not from the Garden of Eden, they will lighten your heart and will give you a glimpse of paradise again. Eve turned to Adam and saw the tears were already running down his cheeks. Her own tears burned hot, and when she touched her eyes, they felt wet. Her tears turned to sobs, and finally her whole body shook as she cried. Memories of their days in the garden flowed as freely as her tears. The peaceful animals, the wondrous flower petals, the glorious sunlight. Then came memories of their curiosity and the tree and the fruit she had eaten. Eve's tears flowed down on and on. There were more images, this time of the future. Eve could see herself carrying a baby as she worked in her own garden. She saw Adam turning soil and harvesting vegetables. She saw visions of homes built and people gathering to eat and drink and celebrate. She felt the comfort of a good night's sleep after a hard day's work. When Eve opened her eyes, everything seemed clearer and sharper. Her body still throbbed with sorrow, but the terrible pain in her heart had eased, and her head felt lighter. Eve turned to see that the gates of the Garden of Eden had closed. She saw Adam drying his tears with the back of his hand, and he looked up. His face, too, shone with a new kind of peace. Ever since that day, people have found comfort in tears, although both bitter and sweet tears are a little taste of paradise. And know that they were forgiven, for God gave them the promise of a Messiah. Although they may have been banished, it would never be completely away from God. And neither will we if we just trust. God be with you.